What is happening, y'all? Cowboy here, and today we are talking about Monster Hunter Wilds. So I just got back from San Francisco about an hour ago. Capcom brought me on out for a chance to go hands-on with the game. Obviously, San Fran is a little bit closer for me than going all the way out to Germany for Gamescom. But either way, super excited to get a chance to play, and I have a ton of thoughts. If I had to put the experience into one word, it would probably be overwhelming. You know, looking back at it, like, honestly, I just wish I had more time with it because there are so many new things going on and so many new mechanics and new combos that, like, honestly, right now, the footage you're seeing looks pretty good because this was towards the tail end of the recording when I was more comfortable with how IG works in Wilds. But, man, the hunt that y'all are going to see towards the end of this video, you would think it was the first time I ever picked up an Insectclave. There was just so much going on that I wasn't grasping. But either way, let's talk about it. Got a lot to talk about, so let's jump in. The first thing I want to discuss is going to be the focus system. Now, the way focus works is when you hold down left trigger, you go into a special stance, and any attacks will be aimed basically right where you're looking. So similar to how you can aim bow guns and the bow freely, it's like that, but for the melee weapons now as well. And as far as I can tell, there's no functional difference in the damage output between your focus stance and your normal stance. So I guess the biggest thing is when you're in focus stance, you know, you're more stationary, focused on a point. Whereas when you're out of it, you have kind of the innate movement that IG has when it's, you know, dancing around the target with the various round slashes. So I think that's kind of the basis, especially, you know, going when I used Switch X a little bit later, I noticed that there was really nothing different between focus mode and not being in focus mode. Like, you know, my combos felt the same. And Switch X is more of a stationary weapon, so, you know, that felt right at home for me to do. But probably the biggest thing that I'm still not sure about after playing with it is I'm not entirely sure if there's really a strong use case for not being out of focus. Like, from what I can tell, you should just be in focus mode all the time. Because if you're in focus mode, you're going to continually hit weak spots on the monster. You're going to create these little red zones, and at least hitting those, you get a similar icon to what you would get hitting a weak point that had been tenderized when you have Wex. So you have like the 4 little corner diamonds around the number, suggesting like, hey, this is a crit. And when you're hitting weak zones continually, or I should say, when you're in focus stance continually, you're going to be making these weak zones, so you're going to be able to get those hits, and they're going to build up. And then obviously you have your weak point finisher, which is what you saw right there. I was launching the Insect on out. But so it's a very, very different style of play, you know, trying to like stay in that and then go back to normal. And, you know, by the time I was hunting the Kachikabra, and this was after the Doshiguma hunt, I was like, okay, I'm just staying in focus mode. You know, and like I said, this is one of those things where I really just need more time with it to test, because from what I can tell, there's really no reason to not be in focus mode, because that's where you're going to be pumping most of your damage. So it's definitely going to take some getting used to. I mean, the moveset is basically identical, so, you know, it's not like, it doesn't feel like Clutch Claw, where it's like, okay, it's time to, you know, hit the head and tenderize it and then bounce it into a wall. It feels a lot more natural in terms of how it flows into the combat, but I don't know, I need more time hands-on to really get a feel for, like, when I shouldn't be using it, because right now, my perception is to always use it. Moving on from there, quite a few new combos going on. I only had a chance to play IG and Switch X. Switch X felt right at home. IG had a couple things that were pretty flashy. Probably one of the biggest things, which is just basic, is we're able to charge our Insect just before we toss it out. We just hold down triangle for like a second, and then when we toss out the Insect, it can gather 3 different extracts at once, which is crazy. You know, no cooldown, no nothing. Just toss it out, and it charges up and gets you multiple extracts. We have an extract spender, which is that move you saw where I was kind of going up into the air. The idea is you do a jumping round slash, and then you like hold the button for a second, and then when you release it, you do this rising slash, and then you go like left trigger, and I think it was circle, and you rise up into the air for like a big flashy attack. So that was pretty wild. The Switch Axe also has something like that, like a unique focus type finisher, and I couldn't execute it. It was like you had to do it while your sword was fully charged, and then it was like, oh, you know, you do you do right trigger, and then you press these inputs. But when your sword's charged, right trigger is going to, switch you back into axe mode. So there's like something where you do like a ZSD and then you chain into it and it's easier. But unfortunately, I ended up running out of time before I was able to execute that. But so we have those attacks. We obviously have the various counters that we've seen in the weapon videos. From what I can tell, those are all just about like very, very good timing, which was unfortunately just not something I had enough time to play around with, given the limited time I had available for the session. But the weapons, I mean, they feel very good. They do feel very visceral. I think it's going to take people a little bit of time to adjust to the changes with utilizing your focus stance and your focus finishers and figuring out how those kind of work into the playstyle of the weapon now. Moving on to talk a little bit about more general world changes and just kind of things that I noticed while playing. I think one of the biggest is when you were getting like big breaking hits on the monster, you're just having a list of stuff that pops up, like saying like, hey, you got these parts, so you don't need to run around grabbing the shinies on the ground anymore. In a second, when that timer runs out, it should actually like show a list of everything that I acquired over the course of that hunt. And I think that's what it is. I think it's listing all the rewards out. On top of that, we have a new dynamic heal, which is pretty cool, at least in the radial menu. When I pulled up the radial menu, there was just this dynamic heal where it would either like use a regular potion or a mega potion depending on how much health I was missing, so that was pretty cool. I didn't end up using the ghillie mantle, but talking with the other people that were at the session, it basically is used to get a sneak attack on the monster now. I think every weapon has its own special sneak attack, but I know talking to Miss Watts with the bow, the aerial shot with the bow is apparently the sneak attack. So, we're not going to be just dumping out aerial shots how we were in Rise. It's going to be very situational. And there's some other stuff that I'm curious about that we obviously didn't get a chance to test, but I wonder if like, could we utilize smoke bombs now and just chain the sneak attacks for big damage, kind of reminiscent of when people were just using the jump strats in World, because that was some of the best DPS you could get out. So there's so much to try and figure out right now. And, like I said, it's very, very overwhelming. The map moving to 3D, as you can see down in the bottom left corner, definitely a really nice change there. No more getting lost like you would be in Coral Highlands or Ancient Forest. We're able to see various elevation differences now, which is really nice. We have a Mega Dung Pod, which is used to break up packs. So if you're hunting an alpha target, it'll have a bunch of smaller monsters with you. I asked Capcom, like, hey, is there any reason to hunt all of them? And they just replied, pain. So I think the large dung pods are quite literally like, go after the alpha, use this to break up the pack, and then, take down the alpha. Or, I mean, maybe you separate them and you kill the lesser ones first. I don't know. But yeah, so we were messing around with that. There was another new thing besides the dung pod, like an attractor shot, which I didn't get a chance to utilize that, but based on the name, I think we're able to either, shoot a monster with it and get it to follow us, or potentially use it to like lure a monster into an environmental trap. The environmentals, at least, are very, very easy to spot in the environment. Like, you'll see vines that are shining that you can pull down to get the monster in. You'll see rocks that you can shoot to get them to collapse on the monster. So some nice changes from a world perspective there. Another thing that grew on me while I was playing was actually the health bar. I know a lot of people have been talking about this, how as your health gets lower, it ends up getting wavier, and then at first I was like, man, that seems really busy. But the more I played, you take a really big hit and suddenly you have this like red heartbeat monitor going on in the corner, and you're like, whoa, okay. It's immediately noticeable because it's going to draw your eye on over to it. So that's actually something that I liked. On the note here, while we're looking at this, I was trying to figure out how to do zero-sum discharge, and as far as I can tell, I think it's only while mounted. You can perform a mounted elemental discharge when you're in the amp state. I was trying to do, climb onto the face and do it, and I could not pull it off, and we had like a little sheet of all the various moves, and then when I was looking in here, I'm like, I think that's just it now. I think if our sword is charged up, I think the ZSD is just our mounted finisher now, which, a little disappointed. But, I guess ZSD spam did get a little cheeky at times, but it will definitely be missed. On Insectclave, we actually, as far as I can tell, unless it comes into play later, we are not like the king of the sky anymore. We used to be able to do our advancing spin slashes up in the air, the helicopter attack where we would just hit the monster and then vault up, and then hit the monster and vault up. We don't vault with that anymore. You just get your hits in and then you land and you would go into your ground combo. And then we still have the like aerial spin to win where you're doing like a vertical, I guess, Beyblade type attack and you're coming on down. That one still hits. The like Dragoon Plunge that we got in World and then subsequently in Rise, that seems to be missing. And, you know, it's just, these are like core mechanics of the IG. And so I'm not sure if they just decided, you know, we don't need those anymore and you're going to get used to the ground game or what the deal is. Talking a little bit about the mounted attacks, since we got one of those going on right now. This I actually didn't figure out until after talking to Super Rat about it and watching my footage now. I see exactly what he was saying. But when we mount, we can essentially stab with the knife or we can do a weapon attack. But the idea is you want to stab with the knife to open up a weak spot on the monster and then utilize your weapon attack as like the finisher dismount. So whereas in World you would just keep tapping and eventually that would happen, now we just tap until we have that weak spot if there isn't one already on the monster, and then you can do the finisher and go for a knockdown. Which this is really nice because if you already have the weak point existing, you can just jump on the monster, immediately go for the knockdown, and then get straight back into your combo pumping that damage. Some more stuff that I noticed is the dynamic weather. We did have a chance to experience that. You're going to see that a little bit later in the video. It comes on real sudden. Like, my Palico was just like, my whiskers are tingling, and all of a sudden I was caught in a lightning storm. And then the new lightning monster, I don't remember his name yet. I'm just going to keep calling him Thormagala since that's what we're recoined. But he came on in. He ended up getting involved in the fight. I got pop shot by him for like half my health and was like, yeah, no, we're hitting everybody with poop bombs. We're getting out of here. But like the world definitely has the alive feel that they're going for. Like there's just so much stuff going on. I mean, I've seen little monsters jump on top of the Chachacabra and like just, you know, swarm it and start attacking it. I've gone after the alpha and had his dudes that I poop bombed away, and then they came back later and I had to send them away again. I had like a giant turf war. Like it didn't show up as a turf war, but like the Thormagala came in and there was the sand monster whose name I don't know yet, and then the other dude happening at the same time, and it was just this like giant shit show of a battle of like 3 or 4 monsters on my screen, and me just being like, I don't belong here. So moving on to the Doshiguma footage, just a reminder, this is going to be pretty rough. A lot of this hunt, I actually completely forgot the input for my focus finisher, so I had Doshiguma just filled full of weak spots. I had like 10 or 15 on them, and I was just like, I don't remember how to pop these things, so I just kept brute forcing my way through the fight. But, you know, like I said, there was just so much that we were hit with at once, so much new information that it was really hard to grasp, and you know, I'm pretty confident we're going to end up getting a demo. Obviously, nothing was confirmed, but from what we're seeing right now, I think they're following a very similar cycle to what they did with World. So I'd imagine we'll probably get a demo around like November, December, and then hopefully we see launch early, like February, March of 2024. But yeah, definitely excited to jump in and play it again. I'm not sure I'm going to have a chance until the demo because not going out to PAX West, and I think that's the only other opportunity in the near future. But hey, those of you that are on the West Coast, PAX West, check it out, try it out yourself. In terms of performance was kind of weird, to be honest, and I'm not sure if this had something to do with the capture card I was using, but there were a couple times where it like felt kind of slow and framey, but looking at my footage right now, it definitely doesn't look slow and framey, so I think it might have just been something that was going on with the capture card. But it's so weird, because like playing it, it felt really slow at times, and now I'm looking at it and I'm like, no, this actually doesn't look slow at all. I think part of it might just be that some of the attacks, with IG at least, definitely felt relatively slow compared to how quick they were in World. You know, like our infinite combo and whatnot, and startups on other attacks. You can see the IG definitely has more of a, like, more delayed, almost forceful attack pattern in some cases. And so it was something that took a little bit of getting used to. As you can see right here, we're doing the, that dash, and it's not, there's just no, you know, it doesn't chain us up into the air, like I said. So that's another thing that's going to take some getting used to, because when I played IG, I was a very big fan of just like aerial dominance on monsters. But you know, we got that thing now, which that's really cool. So talking about things that I definitely want to know more about because they are kind of points of concern. You know, we talked a little bit about the focus mode, but that's something that I'm really hoping we get more details on, or something I have a chance to play with more whenever we do get a demo, because as I mentioned before, right now I'm not sure it makes sense to ever really be out of focus mode, just because you're generating those weak spots constantly. And that is something that I don't want to say has me worried, but you know, I think back to kind of the meta that we saw with World, where the idea is you wanted the monster constantly tenderized. Well, not even World really, more Iceborne, but you know, you wanted that constant tenderization, so you were using the Clutch Claw a lot. And I hope we don't end up with a similar combat flow in Wilds, where it's like, you know, okay, use your focus mode, make the weak points. Oh, you're running out of weak points, get back in focus mode. You know, and that's one of the big things, is just playing it. I couldn't really tell if there was any real disadvantage to focus mode over just your normal attacks, but you know, if that's not the case, then do we just fight in focus mode the entire time, unless we want a little bit of extra mobility? So that's definitely something that I'm hoping we get answered. In terms of armor, we did have a couple different sets to play around with. They had a bunch of different skills on them, considering they were early sets. And I'm not sure, I think these might have been like some custom sets for the demo, because like one of them had like Divine Blessing 3 along with like health boost and stun resist. The one I had on had it was kind of a weird one to choose for Insectclave, but it had a bunch of bonuses for when you get into a clash, which from what I can tell, I think every weapon apparently can do some type of clash. I wasn't able to pull one off with IG, but from what I saw, it's like you just need to have a very well-timed attack, like right when the monster is about to hit you, and that will initiate the clash. I was talking to Super Red about it, and he said he was able to get a couple off, but I couldn't figure it out with IG. But you know, once again, that just falls into the realm of needed more time playing with it to really fine-tune some of this stuff and figure it out. And you know, part of me, I was actually kind of apprehensive about like even putting this piece of the footage up, because it was like my first hunt with the IG, and I'm like, dude, like there's so much shit I'm not doing. I feel like I'm barely even using the weapon here, and I was trying to get down the combo to do that big rise that were you know, I like shoot up in the air and hit. I was trying to figure out how to execute that, so I kept kind of wasting time messing around with that a bit. And then, you know, I had forgotten the finisher, and it was just a little bit of a shit show. But you know, what do you want to do? All new game. There's a lot of shit that I'm learning. Look at that freaking railgun. Big old damage on Doshiguma there. I think that's more damage than what my hunter did for most of this hunt. But you know, this was like the tail end of the hunt, so by that point I was like starting to get the combo down and figuring out how to execute the various moves. Besides focus mode, though, honestly, there's not much else that I'm really concerned about. It was confirmed that you can keep a hunting horn as your secondary weapon and then just buff yourself and put it away. So I do think that's something that I would guess that gets changed, because otherwise that's going to be a big meta thing where it's like, keep a hunting horn in your back pocket, you know, you got to have your hunting horn. And I don't think that is something that would really be good for like the health of the game, where like everyone feels obligated to have a hunting horn. Here's the monster shit show I was talking about earlier. You can see just got one dude shooting out rail bolts. These guys are fighting, and I'm just like, man, what is going on? I'm not going near that. There's everybody's getting poop. All of y'all got to spread out. But yeah, I mean, they definitely nailed the Battlefield Feels Alive vibe that they're going for. That's for sure. In terms of closing thoughts, though, we have to keep these videos to only 20 minutes. I will say that I am very much looking forward to playing again, based on what I had a chance to play. On the way home, I was, like I said, I was playing World on Steam Deck, and I was just like, man, I want to play more Wilds. So it's just, there's so much new stuff, and it's so much more than I thought there was going to be. So it's definitely going to take some time to adjust, and this is one of those things where, you know, if we get a demo, the first thing I'm doing is just like practicing combos against a tree or something until I feel confident in the usage of IG again, because it feels really different. It doesn't feel bad, but it just feels very different. And my biggest regret is just I didn't have more time. I went in there, I was like, I'm going to do IG, and then switch axe, and I'm going to take a look at dual blades, and I'm going to pull out charge blade, and then maybe I'll get to the bow. Nope. I barely got a hold of IG, and then pulled out swax to slap a couple things. So, yeah, unfortunately, that is all I got until whenever we finally get a demo, which will hopefully be near winter.